Abraham was a faithful man who loved and obeyed God with all his heart. One night, as Abraham stood outside his tent looking at the countless stars in the sky, God made him an incredible promise. God told Abraham that one day his descendants would become as many as the stars above him. Even though Abraham and his wife Sarah were old and had no children, Abraham trusted God completely. He believed that nothing was impossible for God. From that moment forward, Abraham carried hope deep inside his heart, waiting patiently for the day God's promise would finally come true in his life. Years passed, and Abraham and Sarah continued waiting for the child God had promised them. As they grew older, the promise sometimes seemed impossible, but God never forgot his word. One beautiful morning, Sarah gave birth to a son. Abraham held the child in his arms with tears of joy filling his eyes. They named him Isaac, which means laughter, because the child brought happiness into their lives. Abraham loved Isaac deeply and thanked God every single day for the miracle he had given them. Isaac became the center of Abraham's world, and their family finally experienced the joy they had waited for so long. As Isaac grew older, he became strong, kind, and obedient. Abraham spent many days teaching his son about faith, kindness, and the goodness of God. Together they walked through the fields, cared for their animals, and spent peaceful evenings beneath the stars. Isaac admired his father greatly, while Abraham loved Isaac more than anything else in the world. Their bond became stronger with each passing year. Abraham often remembered God's promise whenever he looked at Isaac. He believed that through his son, future generations would be blessed. Life seemed peaceful and perfect, and Abraham felt thankful for every moment he shared with Isaac. One quiet night, God spoke to Abraham once again. But this time, the message was unlike anything Abraham had ever heard before. God told Abraham to take Isaac, his beloved son, to a mountain that he would show him and offer him there as a sacrifice. Abraham's heart became heavy with sorrow and confusion. Isaac was the promised child God had given him after many years of waiting. Yet Abraham trusted God completely, even when he did not understand the reason behind the command. Though sadness filled his heart, Abraham decided he would obey God no matter how painful it would be. Early the next morning, Abraham quietly prepared for the journey. He gathered wood for the sacrifice, packed supplies, and saddled his donkey. Isaac happily prepared to travel beside his father. Unaware of what would happen on the mountain ahead, Abraham tried to remain strong. But deep inside, his heart was breaking. Every time he looked at Isaac, he remembered the joy the boy had brought into his life. Yet Abraham continued trusting God with every step he took as the sun rose across the desert sky. Abraham and Isaac began their long journey toward the mountain God had chosen for them. For several days, Abraham and Isaac traveled through the dry desert hills and rocky paths during the journey. Isaac spoke cheerfully while Abraham remained quiet and thoughtful. The desert wind blew softly across the land as they walked beside their donkey carrying supplies and wood. Abraham struggled silently with the pain inside his heart, yet he continued trusting God. At night they rested beneath the stars, and Abraham prayed quietly for strength. Though fear and sadness surrounded him, he believed that God's plan was greater than his understanding. Step by step, father and son moved closer toward the mountain waiting in the distance. As they climbed higher toward the mountain, Isaac noticed something unusual. They carried wood and fire for the sacrifice, but there was no lamb with them. Looking up at his father with innocent eyes, Isaac asked, "Father, where is the lamb for the offering?" Abraham felt pain deep within his heart after hearing the question. For a moment he struggled to speak, but then he answered softly, "God himself will provide the lamb." Isaac trusted his father completely and continued walking beside him. Meanwhile, Abraham prayed silently that somehow God would make a way through the difficult situation before them. Finally, Abraham and Isaac arrived at the mountain God had shown them. The air was quiet, and the sky glowed softly above the rocky hills. Abraham slowly began building an altar using stone from the ground, while Isaac helped arrange the wood carefully on top. Every movement became heavier for Abraham as the painful reality drew closer. His hands trembled, yet he continued obeying God faithfully. Isaac watched his father with trust and respect, never imagining the difficult test Abraham was facing inside his heart. The mountain stood silent as one of the greatest moments of faith in history unfolded before heaven and earth. When the altar was complete, Abraham gently explained everything to Isaac. Though shocked and afraid, Isaac trusted his father and allowed himself to be placed upon the altar. Tears filled Abraham's eyes as he looked down at the son he loved so deeply. Never before had his faith been tested in such a painful way. Yet Abraham believed that even in this impossible moment, God remained faithful. Slowly, Abraham lifted his hand, ready to obey God completely. The wind blew across the mountain as heaven watched silently. In that moment, Abraham showed the depth of his trust and obedience toward God. Just as Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac, a powerful voice suddenly called from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." Immediately Abraham stopped and looked upward. The angel of the Lord told him not to harm the boy. God had seen Abraham's faith and obedience. Relief flooded Abraham's heart as tears streamed down his face. Isaac quickly stood and embraced his father tightly. The fear and sorrow that had surrounded them disappeared in an instant. Abraham realized that God had never intended for Isaac to die. Instead, this moment had become a test of faith, proving Abraham's complete trust in the Lord above everything else. As Abraham looked round the mountain, he suddenly noticed a ram caught in a nearby bush by its horns. Immediately he understood that God had provided another sacrifice. Abraham and Isaac carefully brought the ram to the altar and offered it to God with thankful hearts. Joy and relief filled the mountain as father and son worshipped together. Abraham named that place "The Lord Will Provide." Because God had made a way during their darkest moment, Abraham now understood more clearly than ever before that God was faithful, trustworthy, and able to provide even when situations seemed impossible to understand or overcome. After the sacrifice, God spoke to Abraham once more from heaven. God praised Abraham for his great faith and obedience. Because Abraham had trusted him completely, God promised to bless him greatly. He said Abraham's descendants would become as countless as the stars in the sky and the sand upon the seashore. Through Abraham's family, nations across the earth would one day receive blessings. Abraham listened with gratitude filling his heart. Though the journey had been painful, he now understood that obedience to God always brings purpose and blessing. The mountain became a reminder of God's faithfulness for generations to come. After worshipping together on the mountain, Abraham and Isaac began their journey home. The fear and sorrow that once filled their hearts had now been replaced with peace and gratitude. As they walked together through the desert hills, Abraham looked at Isaac with renewed joy and thankfulness. Isaac also understood his father's faith more deeply than before. Their bond became even stronger after the experience they shared together. The journey home felt lighter, and the desert wind seemed peaceful once again. Abraham knew that he would never forget the day God tested his faith and provided a miracle upon the mountain. The story of Abraham and Isaac became one of the greatest examples of faith and obedience in history. Abraham trusted God even when he did not fully understand his plans. Though the test was painful, Abraham remained faithful, and God provided a way in the end. Generations continued telling the story to remind people that true faith means trusting God completely, even during difficult moments. Abraham's journey showed that God sees every sacrifice, every fear, and every act of obedience, and from that mountain onward, Abraham became known as a man whose faith remained strong no matter how impossible the situation appeared.